I was just wondering if that beaver was home. That's funny. Just swam out. Oh, here comes another one. Right there. Went that way. Yeah, that's cool. There's another one in there. Oh, 2 beavers in there. Looks a little bit deeper in here, but it's weird because it's got all this junk floating on top. I don't know if the beavers are doing that or what. But it's wide enough that it could be deep enough to hold trout. I could be talking myself into it. Who knows? It's really shallow in this bay. I was hoping it was, or maybe it's just the junk that these beavers are digging up. Get it over here. Better look. One of the beavers gonna come back and start smashing. It's weird. This scum that's on the top. I'm gonna have to ask the M&R about that, what they think. Really muddy down in here. So, I don't know. There's still a chance it could be a good lake. I'm gonna have to try. That's all I can do now. I don't know if I'll go back and get my fishing rod. It's hard to fish here from shore. Just because it's not deep right at the edge. If there was a nice cliff or drop off, then I could try. And then the next thing is the water quality and the temperature. That's the big thing. But I'll have really no way of checking. Right now it's just going to be warm because it's in the sun and the mud up in here. So there's no real way to check. Anyway, that's it for now, I guess. Water doesn't feel super cold or super warm, so there's a chance it's still spring fed. If it's spring fed, like even in the middle, as long as the fish have a cold enough, as long as it's cold enough in the middle, then that's all that really matters. Because they need a place to escape in the summer. In the winter, it's fine, no worries. But the summer's got to be, they've got to have some refuge when it gets really hot in the middle of the summer. Not sure if the camera's picking that up, the little minnows. A whole bunch at the surface over here. Well, it's got bait fish, but most lakes have bait fish. That doesn't mean much. For the record, what I packed for my breakfast is way more than I can eat for breakfast. There's two bowls of cereal, plus all the nuts I put in, which would probably amount to 2 cups. Hey look, there's a float plane. Or listen anyway. Maybe you can see it. Can you see it up there? I guess if I was lost, they would just sort of miss me. Anyway, yeah, so just for the record. But that's okay, because yesterday I ate the last one before bed in the tent. So it was sort of as planned. It's my breakfast and then my snack throughout the day. So I've been sitting here for, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour, waiting for the beaver to come back. So far no sign. I'm contemplating what to do next. I'm wondering if I should take the effort to walk around to that next point. It should take me about a half an hour or so, maybe longer. And then have a good idea of what the lake looks like. And then I can show the guy at the M&R guy, and he can give me some ideas. Because as far as getting the canoe back, it's impossible. Not with just myself today, this trip. Even with a few people, it's like chainsaw material back through there. It's insane. There's so many blowdowns. It's really thick. The first leg of it wasn't so bad, but this last leg is impossible. So, as far as getting a canoe in here, this trip's not going to happen. If I wanted to take the effort, I can get my fishing stuff and come back, and then walk to the end of the lake and cast in where none of the mud is. But just show again, to read a lake, you want to know how deep it is. You take the shoreline and you follow that line in. So this shoreline here, this edge is flat, so this is shallow. And you can see there's a big hill here, but the hill is pretty far and it's gradual. So it's going to drop down to some bottom, and then it's going to form back up on the other side here and match up with this side. And if you look at this side, it's pretty steep, so it's promising that there's some deep water over in here. But what my concern is with here is, what's this junk? Where did it come from? Is it lily pads, or dead lily pads, or what? Where is it coming from? I don't understand. I don't know. I don't have the knowledge on that. And then this side here, it's fairly steep, but again, it's all that junk's all up here. So is it going to be deep enough to hold trout? I'm not sure. The other side, you know, it just looks like there's a little bit of that junk on the edges, but it's the shallower of the two sides because it's not as steep. It might be hard to tell, but that edge is quite a bit steeper than that edge. So my guess is that that's maybe, 10 feet bottom, which is pretty average. And then maybe the absolute middle of the lake might be 20 feet. And that's just an offhand guess from my experience with these lakes. And then like even that point, which might run down to something deep, doesn't, because if you follow that tree line, which will give you a sense of the depth, and then back up, it's not giving me the sense that it's a super deep lake. Super deep lakes usually have a face, a shelf, rock shelf sometimes, and it'll drop straight down, and then you know that the lake itself is pretty deep because it follows that same line, which the ice as it receded gouged out back in the last ice age. So anyway, that's my summary for this lake. Like I say, I'm gonna decide if I want to take a walk. Maybe I'll walk a little bit further. And I'm not gonna see anything new until I get past that point, or at least at that point, to see the last half of the lake. But even if that half of the lake has suitable habitat, it would still be worthwhile fishing. at least giving it a shot. And then if the lake has nothing in it, that's a whole lot of work for basically nothing. Aside from the adventure and to see if I could do it. I did it. So, but as far as cleaning the trails out and everything like that, whatever. It's a lot of work, but we do a lot of work in our lives for nothing anyway. It's just part of, taking that risk too. And like I said, there's not a lot of people who would do this, clearing out a trail for maybe nothing. So anyway, we don't know if it's nothing, if it's something. I think maybe the thing to do would be to come back and ice fish it, because then you don't need to get a boat back. But I'm gonna need a machine to get back here, because walking is not feasible. It's way too far to walk the entire distance. Snowshoe, possible, but a hell of a lot of work, and more work than I think you'd have to spend a night. And it gets pretty cold in these parts, so I'm not sure that's who knows. If it's a good lake, yeah, it'd be worth it. But again, taking that risk, coming out, trying it, maybe getting nothing, and then you still have to cut in. You can't snowshoe through that stuff. And pull a sled that you would need to stay overnight. So anyway, those are my musings. It's a pretty cool trail. Probably the beaver trail, or combination of a variety of different animals. Here's another look at the lake. Looks like this is where the moose comes in to feed. Get in that junk and eat the aquatic plants. It's been pretty easy going so far. I don't know if that nice little trail is going to end. Maybe that's where the moose likes to go in. There might be a continuation beyond this point. I can get across the log over here. Alright, check back in a bit. You can see that. I'll go back this way a bit. You can see that it's a pretty steep incline here. And in theory that should continue down into the lake. What's throwing me off is that junk. If it's aquatic plants or whatever, or if it's just like floating junk. I can see rocks there, so the actual lake doesn't continue down. Lost the camera and the drink. Caught on my glove. Yeah, it doesn't continue down here. It goes flat and muddy. So it is pretty shallow. It'll only be out in the middle. I can actually see some stuff floating there too. I'd say there's a good chance a bird might end here. Probably a grouse. Feathers all over the place. You see it's steep again. Then when you look at the edge of the water, there's it's all covered with vegetation, so it's flat again. So it's not promising. You see, it's pretty rugged. And I'm only on my second day, but I'm pretty sore. It's not like I'm in bad shape. physically, but you use every single muscle in your body when you're out here doing this stuff. Well, I'm up almost to the point. Once I get to that point, I'll be able to see the entire lake. But there's lots of lily pads covering most of the lake. I'm seeing lily pads out in the middle too. That means the whole thing's shallow. This lake's really weird, throwing me off. It's like this hill, huge hill. And if it did what it did normally, it would drop right down, continue, and there'd be a nice deep hole in here. But the camera can't pick this up. There's lily pads there, lily pads all the way out to there. There's lily pads out practically out in the middle, even on the other side. So near as I can tell, there's not any gap where it's going to be deep. So I don't know. I don't know if there's any point in continuing. We'll have a peek down there, and maybe they're just really super great lily pads that can grow out of 30 feet of water, because it's a mud bottom. But that'd be the first time I've ever seen it. This lake just cut down. Doesn't though. Doesn't seem to anyway. So I've got lily pads that go up to there, and on the other side, about right there. So I actually see some grass there too. There's grass right there. There's a small possibility that there's trout in here, but I have to get a second opinion on it. So I'll be sending this to the M&R guy and see what he thinks. But I don't think I'm going to continue anymore. I'm pretty far back now. I don't want to go any further. There's a loon out there. No, it's a duck. A loon would be actually good news, but it's just a duck. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to turn around and head back because the lake doesn't continue much further this way anyway. So it doesn't look to be any different than the rest. Anyway, alright, I'm going to head back. Alright, I'm back to the edge of the lake. I was going to take this back as a souvenir, but it's a little bit on the downswing. If I carried it back, it'd probably just disintegrate. It's pretty cool, these plates. You can see how the bones suture together in development, and then these form over top, obviously. Now the membrane holding them together is not there anymore. And then if you flip it over, you can see the spinal cord and the tailbone. Pretty wicked stuff. You can see how these bones form together too. It's not unlike how our own skulls form together. Those same sutures. Yeah, pretty cool.